Hey, everybody, I'm Misty Rooks, and this is the Make Me Better podcast. So today with me, I have Dr. Chad McDill.
Hello.
Hey, I'm so glad that you're here
Oh man, thanks.
today. I always love our conversations. Obviously, this is our health and faith segment called By Design because, God has a design for our bodies, and we end up doing things that interfere with that design to
Absolutely.
keep them from functioning the way that they're supposed to. And I believe at this time period in our existence, God wants us to get back to what is the design for our bodies? What did He create? It's so fascinating. And how can we support that?
Absolutely. And I think that, people out there in the conversations will say, you're either believing this or you're into science or whatever. And I think that the more I studied at the University of Georgia and was in this, it was a developmental biology classes and things like that. And the more I discovered science was validating my faith. And that it was
Amen.
just illuminating things that we know to be true. And we are scratching the surface scientifically of what this amazing creation is capable of and how it really runs and all the things. And so, I don't think they are, as separate as people would like to keep us separated.
There you go. So having said that, bamboozled. That is the word. We have been bamboozled. We have so much information. We've been told things for years by our physicians and books and what have you about our bodies, medicine, mostly medicine. I feel like treatments and things like that. And so that just leaves us confused, or we are just blindly following the science.
Yes, absolutely.
You knew I was about to say that. So, you've got a workshop coming up and you're going to talk about the ways that we have been
bamboozled, hoodwinked, and just all the lies that are out there. And really in an effort to provide people the resources, because since we have been indoctrinated into this, that we often feel like we don't know where to go, what to trust, with information overload, where is the truth? And so this workshop is going to help illuminate the common myths that we hold as truths. And I mean, how to have options. And so we're going to do things like, well, by the way, the workshop's on August 25th, which is a Tuesday night, 6:30 at the office, here in Trenton, Georgia. And you just text BAM for Bamboozled to, our office number there, 657-4777. And we'll hold as many seats as you tell us to hold. So here's the thing. We kind of got to go back in history and think about 1950s, you would see commercials in Life magazine is one of my slides. And there is a doctor holding a pack of Camels and he's got, white coat, the brown strap with the light reflector thing on his head. And it says, give your throat a break. More doctors recommend Camels to relax your throat and aid in digestion. Yes, it was in Life magazine. So the experts of the day, we now know, were being fooled by big tobacco. Well, big pharmaceutical, big industry of healthcare is creating the continuing education, funding the schools, and it is creating this scenario where the quote, they experts are being educated into something and they believe it because of their good heart, their good intentions. They're doctors. They got to help people, right? I believe that to still be true. But I think the intentions of doctors and nurses and I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, emergency medicine, I didn't go to see my chiropractor when I broke my shoulder.
Yeah.
I went and got surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for them and thank God for the medicines to put me to sleep and wake me back up and all the things. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd have been able to tolerate the surgery. So there's a time and a place, right?
There is.
But we're living in a society where emergency care, amazing.
Yes.
But then that mindset applied to healthcare, we're being bamboozled by these people who are the supposed experts, being educated by an industry that has monetized our disease. It is, I think it was Upton Sinclair who said, it's hard to convince someone of their, of an idea when their salary depends on them not believing it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, just the general population is going to trust what they hear when they go to the doctor's office, or if you have to go to the emergency room. And why wouldn't we, but there are ways now we know better. I think people are waking up and we realize, that being treated with medicine is different than trying to create and restore your body back to the way that it should function.
I think so. I think more people are aware of the fact that drugs were designed as emergency interventions.
Yes.
Not like I was at another recording this morning and down in Fort Payne, and the person who was behind the camera, when we were off camera, she looked at me and she said, what was your take on this OED? And it was or EOD, esophageal disorder that a family member had. And she was saying how the only help that she was given was her child was going to have a shot a week for life. That was her only options that were given her. And because it was the only way he was going to be able to eat whatever he wanted. And don't you want your child to be happy by being able to eat all these things that are causing inflammation and causing this problem? And I simply told her where to research. But obviously her child's a few years older now. And she was absolutely floored just at the thought of that there was another option, just somewhere to go look for help. And I think that's, we have so much knowledge, we have so much information that we create inertia, and we don't have, but knowledge isn't the solution. Action is the solution.
Absolutely.
And so just like we go to church to get our faith restored, to take part in the Holy Spirit and have it work within us, and then we leave to go out and take the action, the faith, the walk.
Yeah.
And then
it's in the book of James.
Yes.
Don't fool yourselves. Don't be a hearer of the word only, but be a doer, because the things that you do are blessed. So it's not doing you a lot of good. You do have to hear it first, but you got to put it into action. And
so this plays true with, care of the temple and of the Holy Spirit in our bodies. And so in this workshop, we're going to talk about, some of the myths that are out there that have just gotten us wrapped up into that our bodies are created inferior, that we have to have some outside intervention. And there's some pretty common ones, but I think we need to look at results. The United States, most people believe there's a myth out there that we have a good healthcare system, and it is a myth.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before. As far as emergency care,
amazing.
We're tops.
Oh yeah. Access to care.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes. So
it's there, but then we look at the results of, in the industrialized world, top 10 countries in the world, we rank last.
And so you would think there would be a correlation here. If we have the best health care, we would have the healthiest people.
No.
But we don't.
No, we rank last. We have the worst infant mortality rate.
That's terrible.
In global, looking globally, we rank 37th in health. There's 36 other countries that just by simply being born in it, you're going to be healthier. We have the lowest life expectancy at birth of any of the industrialized countries, the OECD countries, and that are supposed to lead the world in all these things. And yet here we are ranking last. And again, it's the monetized disease model, that is the information overload. And, we're of these countries, we're the only one who allow pharmaceuticals to direct to consumer advertise and run commercials and stuff. You don't see that in the European Union. Us and New Zealand are the only two countries that are allowing that. And so, this is a part of that being bamboozled, hoodwinked. You're always just hearing the latest and greatest. And then you run into situations like Vioxx and Merck, pharmaceuticals back now almost 25 years ago, 2001, I believe it happened, was Vioxx was a COX-2 inhibitor, a kind of anti-inflammatory for arthritis pain. And they put it out there on the market, and it generated $10 billion in revenue in a very short period of time. And in a matter of just a couple of years, 100,000 documented deaths of heart disease, cardiac arrest,
Whoa.
and stroke.
That
100,000 people died.
Vioxx sounds familiar to me.
Yes.
I probably know somebody who took it.
Mm-hmm. And 100,000 people died before, and they didn't just stop it. A whistleblower from the company came forward and said, we know this is thickening people's blood. We know this is why we're seeing this sharp rise in heart attacks and strokes.
Goodness.
And so guess what? They ended up losing. Yes, they pulled it off the market. And then, but already 100,000 people, if it hadn't been for the whistleblower, it would have been several 100,000 before they probably pulled it off, because it was making them a lot of money. And then they had to pay $5 billion in fines. So for killing 100,000 people, they generated $5 billion in profit. They got to keep $5 billion.
This is the country in the world we live in.
This is the State of the Union.
Yeah.
And this is the reasoning behind why we are in this state. And that's why locally that we're doing these workshops, on August 25th, is because, you got to have an alternative. You got to have a place to go that can walk you through a different paradigm and help you understand the knowledge that justifies the reason that you can opt out of this system by doing these things, by the 5 essentials, we call it, right? We want to make sure your brain and your nervous system is functioning properly and connecting properly, functioning spine and nervous system. And then, we want to make sure your nutrition, your exercise, your body and your mindset, your choices are great, and your thinking processes, and then that we're minimizing toxins. And when we do those 5 things, you give yourself that opportunity to opt out. You're going to express more health, and you won't need as much of that system unless, of course, you have an accident or a trauma. And then, of course, you need it. And it can save your life. And that's what it's very geared for. But we need to people need options. And here in town, we just do the best job of it. And so that's what we want to provide people.
So before we get to some more myths, though, and we can't talk about all of them because I know he's saving some for the workshop.
Come to the workshop.
But I just want to say back to the comment about the company who made $5 billion, killed how many people?
100,000.
100,000.
Documented, recorded 100.
Okay. This is what should make people furious. This is why people should be marching in the streets and burning down buildings. I'm not saying I think that's okay, but I'm saying if you were going to do it for any reason, why is it not that? Why is it not something that matters?
Absolutely. We will do amazing things when one person is definitely violated and it's horrible and it is, but yet when 100,000 people die, and it's because of this. Well, the government backs these people. They save these companies. Merck's still around. They're still Merck Pharmaceuticals is still here. And as a matter of fact, they're more profitable because they killed 100,000 people. And, but it's not common knowledge. And then it's not put into the news as because the lobbyists and people make sure that that's not what's happening, because supposedly we still need this company. But what I want to point out is the next blockbuster drug is just the next class action lawsuit. And you're running the potential of being one of those people who died. That is a statistic that justifies them pulling it off the market and still being billionaires. When the fact is that you can live your life in a way that you don't need that pharmaceutical. You do have options. There are plenty of ways to reduce inflammation that drug was supposed to do for osteoarthritis, degenerative joint disease. That was what it was marketed for. Or, we can, go into another lead into, depending upon if you want to talk about the myths about menopause that we're going to be illuminating, or you want to talk about Pfizer and vaccines, wherever you want to lead this, we can go down another rabbit hole.
Oh, I would love to have another show just all about perimenopause one day.
Okay. But no, we can. But we're talking a lot about it at the workshop.
So here's the thing, because I know several people personally
Mhm.
who have been vaccine injured
Okay.
and people in my family. And people don't want to act like that's a thing
Okay.
because, you know, from mainstream media, you
Sure.
hear it's the fear factor. You hear about the deaths and the horrible cases of whatever it is, name it, fill in the blank. And that's the fear that gets put into you, not the fear of the actual side effects and possible
Sure.
death. Like, listen, my 7-year-old, I think he did this when he was 6. He had like some itchy spot on his leg, maybe eczema or something, and in the bath one night, and he said, "I need Rinvoq," and I said, "No, you do not." And he said, "Rinvoq is a once daily pill," and quoted the commercial and said, "Side effects include blah, 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 and death." And, you know, as a child, he heard that commercial enough that is what he automatically said he needed. And of course, I set him straight on that he did not need that. And I said, look, if the side effect was death of a medicine and you would just volunteer to take that doesn't make any sense. But that is what you're never told. And you're never told that about vaccines either. You could go in any pediatrician's office or any doctor's office and ask them the potential side effects. And they're going to tell you something like, well, the benefits outweigh the risks. And they're not going to pull out that big insert
that
and
you can't
actually
ask for and request.
Yeah.
I've done it. So I agree. It's, again, but who's winning? If a 6-year-old can quote a commercial, then AI and all the things that are generating these commercials and the marketing and the things like that, they're grasping the mindset. And therefore, that's one more reason we're doing this workshop, to help people with an acronym that's going to be how to ask the right questions about, you know, what are the benefits? What are the risks? You know, what are the alternatives? What are the, you know, what's my intuition say? You know, what if I do nothing? You know, like all these right questions in any situation.
Yeah.
And so looks like we're headed down vaccines. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because here's the thing. If this could help someone, because I know what it's like when somebody in your family has been vaccine injured, and you may not believe it, you may not think it's a real thing, but when it happens to you, you will believe it. Absolutely. And you will see how awful it can be.
Absolutely. You know, and side note, my mom, she went in for her probably 50th flu shot or whatever it was. She had an anaphylactic reaction in the parking lot, thank God, and was able to go right back in.
Wow.
And, you know, so she has this medical exemption for it because it happened to her. So I know this is another, and again, you don't know when it's going to be that time.
Yes.
You know, that's the unknown about it. And if you'll just hang in on this conversation, let's say that your guts are grinding and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't listen to this. I thought this was going to be good, but it's on vaccines and I'm tuning out. Hang on, because I'll give you an 84% effective way to avoid the flu this year. Instead of, let's go into the fact that we got to set the frame in the fact that the flu vaccine, every year, most it's ever has been is 58% effective. And then the lowest is 19% in this. And then when you look at this, they're guessing every year to generate the next version, right? Whether the mutations, is it going to be A or B or, you know, and they're creating their vaccines. So there's always this guesswork going on, and highest 58%. On average, it's between 35 to 40% effective. So if I came into your house, you hired, like, let's say you had an electrical problem, and you called and you asked me to come fix your electricity, and I walked in and you said, how effective is this going to be? And I said, oh, maybe 35, 40%. Would you hire me?
It would be ridiculous.
Absolutely. So when we think about it and have that knowledge, then we have to say we need to look at these alternatives. And that's our example of, is it safe? Is it effective? Well, safety standards say that, like this, the research that we could pull out and put on a chart was from 2016, was looking at the top 11 things. So are vaccine injuries real? Number one, there's a court system for it, the National Vaccine Injury Court System. There's was a court system set up in 1986, and there's been approximately $10 billion in payouts to injuries since that time period. So
And this is what people don't know because it's not on CNN.
Absolutely. And so,
but you're here to tell us today.
It's a real thing. Go, you can look it up, even on search engines that are so, segregational, like Google and places like that. You don't even have to go to DuckDuckGo to find this one. You just go to the Vaccine Injury Court system, and VAERS is the vaccine injury reporting system that people became aware of during COVID. And you can look these things up, and you would see that in 2016, the top 11 lawsuits that were filed were for the flu vaccine. And they caused things like Guillain-Barré syndrome, or Guillain-Barré, whatever, how you want to pronounce it, which is a form very similar to polio, where this person literally couldn't walk. There was death and stroke, and they say that only 2% of injuries actually get reported. This is in VAERS, like this is their data, not my opinion. Again, go check the source. So this court system is there. Things are real. Unfortunately, it's our taxes that are paying for this. So the problem is real, and it does happen. And statistics vary depending upon what you're looking at. And it leads us down this pathway that says directly, let's wrap up the flu, and maybe we go into this other 5-year period that we went into, is that you can do a better job. Simply, they did the research and looking only at one thing, not both in concert. So if you use omega fatty acids and vitamin D, but they looked at vitamin D alone.
Okay.
And it was 84% effective. If you get your vitamin D in its proper ranges, which isn't above 30, it's 60 to 80 is this sweet spot. 60 to 100 is the top end. And you keep your vitamin D levels there. It's 84% effective at the seasonal flu, at keeping you from getting it. And I'll take 84% over 35% any day.
So let me get this straight for all of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
If your vitamin D is in the correct range.
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean that your flu symptoms won't be as bad, or you're less likely to get it?
84% effective at not getting it.
Well, there you go.
There you go. It's not that your symptoms aren't as bad and all this stuff, which is a great freshman philosophy conversation that we need to talk about, because that's a great part of the lie that I think we should open up with.
Yeah. So this is the craziest thing ever. I've heard a couple different people say this in the past few flu seasons. Okay. So the comment was, thank God I got the flu shot, because these aches and pains are the worst that I've ever dealt with in my life. I can't even say it without laughing because it's so ridiculous. This flu is killer. I'm so glad I got my flu shot, because then there's no telling what it would be like if I didn't have the flu shot. But it's the worst thing that you've ever had.
Absolutely.
Still.
Okay. It's scary. It's scary, the thought process that got people there. But that is a common myth due to the way that the COVID vaccine was rolled out. So we got to go back even further to just prior to COVID. I think it was 2010. Pfizer had to pay the largest criminal penalties of any company in record for their Bextra was the drug that they marketed, and they off-label marketed it. Like, it was only certified, FDA approved for one use, but they were marketing it for like 5 uses. And this applied to other drugs as well in this lawsuit. And so then they had to pay $2.3 billion, of which 1.3 was for the lying. They literally were going to doctors and marketing it to doctors to prescribe for things it was not approved for. And so that was the company that was.
Okay, pause right here, because does this mean that doctors are being educated by pharmaceutical
Yes.
reps.
They're being educated by pharmaceutical reps. They're being enticed. They're being given trips to, Cancun and given cars and whatever and perks and kickbacks. That was a part of the lawsuit. They were giving out these things, and they got fined $1.3 billion for these criminal penalties for doing these things.
Okay.
And then the other $1 billion was for the act of, I guess it was just penalties. So the civil penalties. So now that's the company. That's the mindset. So this is who we're going to entrust. Just paid the largest ever criminal court lost for all this problem. And then this is who we're entrusting to take us through the COVID and create this vaccine. And remember, we got to put it in time, right? Because it's been long enough for a lot of people to forget that everyone chose Pfizer because it was a one and done.
Yeah.
Right. Merck was available, but it was a 2-shot.
Yeah.
Or Moderna. Sorry, Moderna.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
And Moderna was 2-shot, and everybody like, why would I take 2 when I could take 1? And so this was going to be the rollout. So what were we told about the vaccine? If you got it, you would not get COVID. Is that right? Is that what you remember?
Oh gosh. Yeah, there was so much.
Exactly.
Or you couldn't get it, and then maybe it changed to you couldn't spread it.
Exactly. And then you couldn't, then later, because time went on, it was 1 shot, you won't get it. Okay, well that fell through. Now it's, okay, 1 shot,
and your symptoms won't be as bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it was also that you couldn't spread it. For a while, it was that you'll get it, but you won't give it to anyone. You won't be bad enough to pass it on. Well, then people in the same household were getting it from the person. And so that fell through. Then it was, okay, but then your symptoms won't be as bad if you've had it. And that was the cascade. And then it got to, well, none of that was true. And then it's like 3 boosters later. And so, well, why not have gone ahead and done the other one? It was only 2 and didn't require boosters or whatever. And so we just see this progressive lie in the fact that they're promoting their agenda. They profited $90 billion off of that $90 billion. And so it was the blockbuster ever for them as a company. And none of it began to be true. And that's where we end up with the flu thing. That's what got us here, is that the lie is that if you get it, it's not going to be as bad. Well, that is the worst freshman philosophy. It's like if I had an infinite number of monkeys with an infinite amount of time and an infinite amount of typewriters, they would end up typing out Homer's Odyssey, and it would, well, how lame is that? I mean, it's ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way to go back in time and take some people out of that and let them get sick again and see how bad it was.
Yeah.
So it can't be disproven because you can't go back in time. And so, of course, you can hang your hat on that. But the fact is, you can only hang your hat on it because there's no way to test it.
Right.
And so, it's just a terrible lie that then has propagated itself into these other vaccines like the flu or, now the chicken pox or whatever. And anyway, we're going to dive into that myth, and we're going to look at the years. We're going to look at the data. We're going to look at the timeline of these things. We're going to help people understand that there are benefits and risks to doing something, and there's benefits and risks to doing nothing. And you make the choice for you based on your current health status, when in fact, let's talk about, had we done something as a society versus just bought into that. At the end of COVID, we realized that the people who died and the people who were hospitalized had several things in common. Number one, most common was obesity. Then there was obesity and diabetes. Then there was obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, and obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and then the combination of hypertension. And yet 88% of the people who were hospitalized by COVID had low levels of vitamin D. We didn't talk about that. Just simply getting outside, getting sunshine, getting fresh air, getting vitamin D, or supplementing with it would have helped 88% of the people who ended up in the hospital. And as a we were told people will say, well, there wasn't time to know what we should be doing. But as a society, we could have bought into the fact that obesity, diabetes, heart disease, all these were what were people, complications, comorbidities that were people putting people in the hospital. Well, as a society, we could have tackled those things.
Yeah.
We could be a healthier nation right now because we were told we were going to be 6 feet apart and wearing masks for forever.
Yeah.
Right? This is the new normal.
Yeah.
That was what we were told. By this person who, pled the fifth 111 times, and contempt of court. But anyway, so that's what we were sold. So we knew we had the time. We had forever to really tackle the comorbidities. If we look at it logically, which is empowering we the people to do the things to opt out of this system and to be our best advocates. And I think that that's really what we need to focus on for these future generations. Is how do they become healthier? How do we empower them with the knowledge to reach their God-given health potential?
Yeah, because if we already had the mindset as a culture to be as healthy as we could be before the next pandemic hits, we would not have been so easily manipulated. There wouldn't have been as much fear because you would have known the truth, not just your truth and my truth and everyone's truth. Then you would have known beforehand, like, my body is well able to handle this. And I do not want anyone to think that we are making light of the situation and all of the deaths and the families that were separated and did not get to see their loved ones.
Absolutely.
We are not all about that. Was wrong. And I sympathize. I know people who lost family members and loved ones. And it makes me angry that they didn't get to see them, but it also makes me angry about the treatments and things that they were doing, which was contributing to their death, not their well-being and getting better.
And the fact is what about if we now know this to be the truth? Like, we know what all happened. We know that these were the comorbidities. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on politically. We all can agree that those comorbidities made people worse. You were more susceptible to being hospitalized and dying. Then we as a culture can all agree that we should walk forward into this new world of that physical fitness and good levels of vitamin D and being less toxic and not having heart disease and in a national campaign to crush obesity and to help people be healthier. That universally makes sense. But I ask you why it's not the case. And it's because it's not monetizable and profitable.
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking about Joseph saying, I need Rinvoq. Rinvoq is a once daily pill, and quoted it and the side effects and everything. And why does he know that? Why did they know every word to the Jardiance song on the commercial? Why do we see commercials for alcohol and medicines and all these different things? But what if we had ads that were go outside today and get some sunshine and all that? And it's because nobody's making money off of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that's the mindset of Max Living, to look at, this is a group of chiropractors that I practice with and train with, and that we are trying to help people opt out of this model by awakening them to the knowledge that they are the best doctor for themselves, and that it is, to quote the CDC's website, 90% of chronic disease is lifestyle related. That means you own 90% of the solution. And that is amazing.
That's unbelievable that they even have that on there.
I know, but it's there.
Yeah.
And so we know this to be true. So what are we going to do about it? Well, you can come to the Bamboozled workshop and learn more and learn the other things like how to help with menopause and what is the major hormone. It's not, spoiler alert, it's not estrogen imbalance. It's another hormone that plays a role and is upstream of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone production. And therefore, when it is out of balance, it robs you of the ability to even make these in their proper ratios. And so we're going to talk about that and how to manage that and how that a woman's body body can go more seamlessly through the transition that we were designed to go through. Our ladies were designed to go through is let's make sure and point that out. That is the case, and we can make that more seamless simply by taking aim at the right thing, not something like hormone replacement therapy that makes ladies 8% more a year that you're on it. Increase your risk 8% a year for breast cancer. Wow. Every year you're on it, 8% increase in breast cancer risk. So let's do something different.
Yeah.
Let's do something different.
Yeah. Let's do something different, and let's start right here. So if you're local, if you're watching this show, if you're near Dade County, Georgia, this workshop is open to the public.
Absolutely. It's free. It's open to the public.
And it's free. So it's on August 25th.
At 6:30 p.m.
We will have all that information in the description for you. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. We could have gone forever and ever and on a bunch of different rabbit trails, but that's the end for today's episode. You're welcome to come to the workshop next month. Join us again for the next segment of By Design. And thank you
for to be here.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you for listening to the Make Me Better podcast.